First, let's kill a myth. Rome was actually remarkably tolerant of religion. They absorbed gods from every culture they conquered. Egyptian gods, Greek gods, Persian gods, all welcome. This is why Rome was famous for religious tolerance. They conquered Egypt. They absorbed Isis and Osiris. They conquered Greece. They adopted the entire Greek pantheon and just renamed everyone. Zeus became Jupiter. Ares became Mars. They even imported the Persian god Mithras, who became wildly popular among Roman soldiers. The Roman attitude was essentially, the more gods on our side, the better. Every new religion they encountered was potentially another ally in the divine realm. So why couldn't they extend that same tolerance to Christians? Imagine you spend 300 years throwing people and executing them for their beliefs. How does that happen? How does a persecuted underground movement become the most powerful religious institution on earth? The answer involves political genius, social collapse, military strategy, and one of the most consequential decisions any emperor ever made. Let's go back to the beginning. Then one day, you become their religion. That's the Roman Empire. By the 1st century AD, emperors were officially considered divine, gods on earth. Worshipping the emperor wasn't really about spirituality. It was a loyalty oath, a political act. When you burned incense at the emperor's statue, you were saying, "I am a Roman. I submit to Roman authority." Christians wouldn't do it, not because they were trying to be rebellious, but because their faith explicitly forbade worshiping anyone but God. To a Roman magistrate, that refusal looked exactly like sedition, treason. You're living in our empire, benefiting from our roads and our laws and our protection, and you won't acknowledge the emperor's divinity? That was a red flag Rome couldn't ignore. And the story of how that happened is one of the greatest political views in human history. So why did Christians get the short end of the spear? 1. Political threat. Romans required citizens to worship the emperor as a divine figure. It was less about belief and more about loyalty, like a pledge of allegiance. Christians flatly refused. That wasn't just heresy. That was treason. It was less about belief and more about loyalty, like a pledge of allegiance. Christians flatly refused. That wasn't just heresy. That was treason. 2. Social suspicion. Early Christians were deeply misunderstood. They met in private homes, often at night. They called each other brother and sister, which to outsiders sounded like they were breaking family bonds. They spoke of eating the body and drinking the blood of their Savior, which, taken out of context, sparked rumors of cannibalism. They preached that earthly wealth was meaningless, which threatened the social hierarchy. Some even said slaves and masters were equal before God. Rome feared what it didn't understand. It spiked during crises. When Rome burned in 64 AD, Nero needed someone to blame. Christians were convenient. During plagues, famines, military losses, blame the people who won't honor the gods. Blame the people who won't honor the gods. Most Christians were left alone. Large-scale systematic persecution was actually rare. Most of the time, most Christians were left alone. Large-scale systematic persecution was actually rare, the worst happening under Diocletian around 303 AD. By then, Christians were already everywhere. By the 3rd century, Rome was in freefall. In just 50 years, there were over 20 emperors, most assassinated. Barbarians pushed at the borders. The economy collapsed. The old Roman religion felt hollow, bureaucratic, spiritually bankrupt. Christianity offered something Rome's state religion didn't: meaning. A personal God who loved you. This was called the crisis of the 3rd century, and it nearly destroyed Rome entirely. During this time, something interesting was happening with religion. The old Roman state religion, with its official priests, its civic rituals, its impersonal pantheon of gods, was failing to give people what they needed. It didn't explain suffering. It didn't offer community. It didn't promise anything after death beyond a shadowy underworld called Hades that nobody was particularly excited about. Community that crossed class lines, hope after death, for soldiers, slaves, women, the poor. This was revolutionary. The church also built something Rome was losing: institutional trust. Bishops organized hospitals, food distribution, care for the sick. During plagues, when wealthy Romans fled the cities, Christians stayed and helped the dying. That builds loyalty. Then comes Constantine, 312 AD. He's about to fight the Battle of Milvian Bridge, the fight that will determine who controls the Roman Empire. And according to legend, he sees a vision, a cross, a message. In this sign, conquer. He wins the battle. He converts, or at least claims to convert. Was Constantine a genuine believer? Historians still argue this. He was baptized only on his deathbed. He kept pagan symbols on coins. He continued celebrating pagan holidays. But here's what's undeniable. He was a genius politician. The Christian Church by 312 AD was the most organized institution in the empire. It had networks, administrators, money, and loyalty across every province. Rome's bureaucracy was crumbling. The church's wasn't. Constantine didn't just adopt Christianity, he merged with it. In 313 AD, the Edict of Milan made Christianity legal. He funded church construction, gave bishops legal authority, convened the Council of Nicaea to unify Christian doctrine, putting himself at the head of a new religious political order. The transformation completed under Emperor Theodosius in 380 AD. He didn't just allow Christianity, he made it the official state religion. Now paganism was banned. The empire that once fed Christians to lions was now feeding pagans to Christian. The persecuted became the power. The Roman Empire didn't adopt Christianity because emperors had a spiritual awakening. It happened because a grassroots movement built something the empire desperately needed: unity, organization, and a story people were willing to die for. Rome tried to destroy Christianity. Christianity outlived Rome. So let's zoom out. Why did this really happen? The simple answer is, Christianity won because it offered something Rome couldn't compete with. Rome offered bread and circuses, material provision and entertainment. Christianity offered meaning, community, and hope. In good times, bread and circuses are enough. In the worst crisis Rome had ever faced, they weren't. Christianity also outcompeted its rivals institutionally. Mithraism, which was equally popular in the 3rd century, had no equivalent of the church, no unified leadership, no welfare infrastructure, no universal mission. Christianity organized. It wrote things down. It sent missionaries everywhere. It argued, debated, and refined its theology into something coherent and portable. And when a politically savvy emperor looked at the landscape and asked, "What is the most powerful institution in my empire that isn't already loyal to me?" The answer we. If you want to go deeper on how one religion reshaped civilization, subscribe. There's a lot more story left to tell.